As Christians, let us remember this. Who is the prince of this world? Satan, not Jesus. In verse 7, we see that he says this: refuse profane and old wives' fables, and exercise yourself unto godliness. Well, having read that verse many times, I really didn't understand what it meant. Old wives' fables. Well, we have a few old wives' fables in our society and in our culture that are not based on paganism and, such things as certain ways to eat or sleep or so forth. They're just fables. They don't really amount to anything. But these weren't fables like that. It was fiction and genealogy, as we discovered from 1 Timothy chapter 1 verse 4. Paul starts out his writing to Timothy at the very beginning. First of all, he says, do not allow anybody to teach a different doctrine. They were teaching a different doctrine in the church in Ephesus, or maybe in groups around Ephesus. And he said, they should not and they cannot give heed to fables and endless genealogies. That's the very subject of his whole epistle. That's really the main reason he wrote the epistle, that they would not teach a different gospel other than what he taught. We must stick to the gospel of Paul. Paul is the only one who has presented the gospel in its entirety, as far as we are entitled to receive at this time from the Lord. The rest of it we will receive in glory, not on this earth. There will be no edition on this earth, unless of course there are books that are lost, which is possible, but they would never exceed what Paul has written and which we are to follow. Now, first of all, we'll deal with the fables. That also means fiction or myths, as it is said in other translations. And what he was really applying it to was Gnosticism, Gnostic fiction of Judaism. And I think our scholars have missed a lot by just telling us it was Gnosticism and not going further and telling us it was Judaistic Gnosticism. Because Judaism is Gnostic. Not the Judaism of Moses. That's the Word of God. I'm talking about the Judaism that Israel followed from the time they came out of Egypt, in a small way then. It included idolatry. And Judaism today includes idolatry. And of course the Christians are foolish enough not to find out what they do really follow. It's time. They searched and found out. There are books all over the world about it. Buy the books and discover the truth. And hurry up and buy them, because Amazon might remove them from her shelves like she's just done with revisionist historians who tell the truth about the history of the last 2 world wars and who tell us the truth about Germany and the camps, removed off the shelves when they've been selling them for years. Why do you remove from yourselves something that is truthful? Because it shows up the lies that the world has been following and listening to for generations. sad to say. Look, as Christians, let us remember this. Who is the prince of this world? Satan, not Jesus. Jesus is our king, but he's not the king of this world. Satan is. Satan is the author of lies. He was a liar from the beginning. If he controls the world, what does he put into the world? Lies. What does he put into all those people who are not Christians? Lies. What does he put into all the godless leaders? Lies. What does he put into those who control the banks? Lies. What does he put into the dictators? Lies. What does he put into everybody and everything that follows things in this world, and we all do it and hear it? Lies. What did we learn at school? Lies. I discovered I'd learnt lies in history about 8 years ago when I started delving into the history of India, because we used to go to India. So I started delving into it in relation to the British. I was absolutely stunned. I had always thought, oh, it was great that Britain conquered India, and I thought the British did a marvellous job and they were a wonderful people. When I read the true history of what they did, not written by Indians, written by Englishmen, I was absolutely shocked and realized what I had been taught at school, which was pride in Britain, pride in England, pride in the British, pride in the English-speaking people, was total lies. I was shocked. Why don't you do some interesting investigation to find out what's going on in those who are in bed with the churches, whoever they are, whether it's Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons or Seventh-day Adventists or Judaists? Why don't you look into it? We were taught about the Mormons years ago, and we were taught about the Jehovah's Witnesses, and I'm not speaking against the people there. We were taught about their doctrines, and of course they used to visit our house. Haven't you ever had them come to your door and talk to you and leave them your literature? Well, now, have you ever had the true literature from a Judaist? No. Most of you, hundreds of millions who are in the churches, have never seen it, never heard it, and have no idea what it is. We should all look into it. Now, the Egyptians called the Greek deities myths and fictions, and they were based on Genesis 1:1. Everything in paganism is based on Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and earth. Now, I do know enough about the 10 paganistic religions to know that, because I've read enough about it to know it. And I do know enough about the Kabbalah that came from Egypt that it follows the same pattern. It begins with Genesis 1, verse 1. And it teaches things that are contrary. They all teach things that are absolutely contrary to the Word of God and truth. Jesus is our king, but he's not the king of this world. Satan is. Satan is the author of lies.